Let's make sure I have sound. It's always so important to have sound. I mean, if you can't hear me, you kind of feel left out, right? So let's do a quick sound check 1 2 1 2 and make sure we, in fact, are audible, that you can hear me. Let's see. You can hear me loud and clear. All right. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I know it's been a little bit since I have been live. Sometimes that happens, right? Just like your favorite TV shows sometimes go on hiatus, they take season breaks. You have to do some house cleaning and different things you need to do as part of the process. And for me, one of the things I needed to do was to clean my MacBook because overnight it seems like I was at about 75% of storage, which it never had as much storage as I wanted. We all know I need at least a terabyte, preferably 5 terabytes to grow into because of the amount of content that I do create. And so much of it I don't even put out, but I create it. And so I had used up nearly 3/4 of the half a terabyte, the 500 gigs on my laptop. And most of that, of course, was video recordings. If you follow me, you know, number one, my name is Tamira Hamilton. I blog about the business of you. I'm a digital marketing strategist, content creator, course creator, all of those things. And so I had content that I needed to clear off of my laptop that I needed to get in vaults and that. So I had to spend some time and do that. And now that is done. And now we are back to our regularly scheduled program. It's only been about a week or so. Plus, I have so much content that is out there already. You should not be starving ever for content from me. So I'm taking a little bit of a different direction with some of my lives, at least for today anyway. And today I want to really talk about, and I do this from time to time, as you know, talk about some things that are going on that are trending overall out there and bring those back to what we do here, bring those back to things that you care about, that you know, may be keeping you up at night, that may be impacting you, so on and so forth. And one of those things, I've done some TikTok videos about. And so if you're not following me over there, you definitely want to head to the LINK and my bio and find me over on TikTok. I'm under Haute Chocolat over there. And you will see that I have a couple videos and I actually have some more replies I need to actually record on. This is why I don't go live direct on Facebook much because they buffer a lot. And so we're back. Okay. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is Miss Candace Owens. And if you know me, right? If you know, right? If you follow me, you probably have a very good inclination on what I feel about Ms. Candace Owens, right? And so, first off, let me just say we have to understand and get an appreciation for the fact that you cannot agree with someone and find points where you might agree with them. Okay. So there are some things that I will say that I won't say that I agree, but I don't disagree with her. And the reason I frame it that way is you can go down a very slippery slope, and someone like Candace, they say the devil works hard. Candace Owens works even harder. Okay. And she's a very intelligent and bright woman. Okay. And so she knows that if she can get you to agree with her on something, that you are going to find her more likable. In fact, she has a piece of content out where she doesn't say that that's what she's doing. She's saying that's something that she learned from when she was putting out the Blake Lively content not too long ago, right? And so there's this idea floating around, especially on the Clock app, that she is rebranding. And Here's one thing I clocked about Ms. Candace Owens very early on. Again, y'all know where I sit politically, and you may not know. I'm actually an independent, right? I vote the issue, not the party. And the number one most important issue to me is my grandchildren's civil rights. If you know, you know. I do not play about that. My children's civil rights, my own civil rights, my parents' civil rights, my siblings' civil. You see where this is going? Right? And so we definitely have some differences in opinion, and rightfully so. And again, this is a very bright, intelligent, articulate woman. And it's sad to me that she chooses to use that for evil. I'm just go ahead on and say it. Now I know there's a growing number of y'all. Well, Candace was right. Candace was right. That's the thing with people like her. They will find something that you will find to be right, but then it shoots off from there into some really nasty territory. And she does a lot of double talk. Like there's a video of hers that I watched yesterday that I had to watch it a few times because I'm like, if you're not careful, if you're not intelligent enough, what she just said is really messed up, right? She's basically framing anti-racism as something that is bad, as something that is evil, that it's actually racist. And the way she said it, she's not someone who makes mistakes with her words. I sometimes make mistakes with my words. She's not someone who makes mistakes with her words. So, this idea that she is rebranding, I'll give it to you that she's doing some rebranding. They all are, but are they going left? No. By the way, I'm not a leftist. Important to know that. I'm not a leftist, right? I'm not way over there. Don't let the hair, the wig color fool you. I'm not a way over there leftist, right? You know who I supported in the election. You know why I supported her, right? And yes, her being black did play a role in it. Was it the only thing? Absolutely not, because I don't do that either. But I am not a way far over to the left leftist. I'm much more centrist. I'm much more moderate. Okay. But when it comes to civil rights, again, I don't play about those. And she has some rhetoric in that is very dangerous and very nasty. And basically, her, Joe Rogan, and the whole lot, what they are finding right now is they thought they would be getting a check, they thought they would be getting positions, and they didn't. Like, I would probably think that Candace wanted the press secretary job. I would think she probably saw herself as a potential candidate for it, whether she wanted it or not, right? And she didn't. And we see who got the job, what they look like, right? And you have to understand that someone like Candace had to know she is too opinionated, too outspoken, too challenging to authority to get any type of role like that. And she should have learned from Omarosa, who I actually like Omarosa a little bit. I ain't even gonna lie, I ain't even gonna hold you. I like Omarosa a little bit. Okay. When you understand who she is and what she's about and the performative of what she does, you get it. And Ms. Omarosa is definitely about Omarosa. But there are some things that she draws the line at and she don't play about. And so because Candace, Joe Rogan, and these other folks didn't get the payroll, the checks are drying up, now they are actually speaking out against the chief dictator in charge. And so that's more of what you're seeing is the grift is shifting with Candace, not so much that she is switching political ideologies. She's framing it as Christian doctrine. It goes against Christianity because she is a newly found converted Catholic, right? And so you always have to look at the entire picture, what someone does more so than what they say. But some of these people actually tell y'all exactly what they're going to do, and then they do it and y'all act surprised. And it's really weird to me. It's really, really weird to me, right? Someone commented on a video, they always have to come very condescending, and and they usually lack any type of education, decorum, and so forth. And they basically commented about Candace having her husband having $190 million net worth. First of all, her husband doesn't have that net worth. His father has that net worth. He doesn't have that net worth. I ain't saying he brokey, he a brokey. I ain't saying he po, but the $190 million net worth is his father's net worth. Okay. And if you look at her husband, not only what he looks like, but where he is from, I assure you, yes, Candace's children are likely set, but Candace is not dumb. Candace knows she needs to make her own money in case things ever go south. Candace needs to have her own bag. So she's not going to, with all of her traditional values, not have her own money coming in. And most of these women that put out that trad wife and all of that, they have their own money coming in. And in some cases, they're the primary breadwinner. That's what y'all don't get, right? So you have to know and understand that Candace is an opportunist. She is an opportunist. She originally did not have the ideologies and things that she has. I think those were born out of opportunity, and it has paid off for her. But now things are shifting. She's no longer needed. And this is why I always tell you that, and this is coming from experience and knowledge, being hyper individualistic, hyper capitalistic, especially for women of color, it's not going to work out for you. It's not, right? You can look at people as high as Colin Powell. Oh, they loved him. But when they thought he was going to be running up against that Doyle dude, Bob Dole or Doyle or whatever his name is, and some of the other ones, I think even Tommy Thompson, they were talking about digging up as whatever dirt they could. When you understand what the Grand Old Party is really about and who they are really for, what they are rooted in, if you are over on that side, then it's not really about moral compass in that. It's about a grift. It's about you want to be the oppressor, right? You're willing to sell your soul. You're willing to sell your people. You're willing to sell whatever to be in the room. And that's how Candace is. Like her, love her, hate her, whatever. You have to know that's where old girl is coming from. I'm sitting right next to the heat. This isn't even a hot flash. I'm sitting right next to the heat. Sitting right next to it. So Candace is about Candace at the end of the day. I mean, I'm not even going to get into the rumors about her husband's sexuality or any of that stuff. And she's on her fourth baby. So, you know, they're going to probably pump out 7, 8 kids. It's more power to her. More power to her. If you're going to pump out 7, 8 kids, definitely do it for somebody whose father has $190 million net worth. Because, like I said, I don't think he does bad. I don't think she does bad. I think they're definitely living a very comfortable not 7, I'm not 6, but 7, 8 figure, multiple, $1 million lifestyle every year, right? Without his daddy's money. And I'm sure they probably are still getting some of his daddy's money, some sort of stipend or income from a trust fund is probably coming in from him, and God only knows what they have set up to pay for her kids education and that. But for like the last 4 years, I mean, this is like her fourth baby in 4 or 5 years. I mean, she's given birth 2021, 2022, 2023, I think. But yeah, she's pretty much in 5 years, this is like her her fourth child. She announced in January that she's pregnant with her fourth child. So more power to her. More power to her. But she is grifting. And, I've talked about this before, um, on TikTok, some videos earlier in the year where, I say, there's one I say, I'm going to bring it up again. Let me find it. I talk about how there's this rise of anti Black, really angry, unhealed women. And I do believe Candace fits into this category of being angry and unhealed. In fact, I've said it before. In any other context, if she were not espousing their hate for them, they would call her a typical, stereotypical, angry Black woman. I've said that before and I stand on it. And the only reason they won't is because she's directing her anger toward Black people, which they love. Not saying all Republicans, but I'm saying some of them are complicit. I'll tell you that. Tell you that right now. Okay. So let me find it. We're close to it. The angry, unhealed Black woman demeaning and ridiculing other Black women, spreading propaganda is the new Red Pill podcast, bro. So, what we've seen in the last 6 months, pretty much going on 6 months since the election, is there is a rise of, and maybe it was always there, but and the algorithms have shifted and are giving these people more algorithm juice there, but there is this rise of, I don't see it as much because I trained the algorithm not to show it to me. I've blocked people. I've said not interested. I've not a week to see if I will fall for it, and the answer is no. But there is this rise of Black women and even very young Gen Z ones who are, you can hear and feel the anger emanating through their bodies as they speak, and they have a lot of anger. And just like the Red Pill podcast bros, the underlying thing is mommy issues. You can't convince me otherwise. You can't convince me otherwise, right? Because one of the things a lot of people don't talk about is the trauma on the other side. They don't talk about the trauma because there's a lot of trauma. Trauma, like I said yesterday, trauma doesn't know a skin color. Trauma doesn't know a gender. To me, in my opinion, you don't get out of life without trauma. You're going to have some sort of trauma. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how wealthy you are. I don't care, how cared for you are. Trauma is a part of life, right? It could be the trauma of, like, I love the movie Save the Last Dance. Her mom dying was a traumatic event, and she had a beautiful relationship with her mom, and so losing her mom was a traumatic event. So trauma is not always poverty. Trauma is not always getting beat, drugs, abused, and that, trauma just comes with life. A man's days are but few and full of nothing but trouble, right? So there's this other video, let me find it. Okay, so where is it? Okay. As a recovering workaholic, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this overworking in the name of hypercapitalism, espousing anti-black and hyper-individualistic rhetoric is being a pick-me to YT supremacy and the patriarchy. It screams father wound and is no different than being a mic holding podcast bro. I'm not a psychologist by trade, but I am a psychologist by trade because I'm a marketer, and marketing is all psychology. And my radar is pretty sharp. I call people and people get mad at me, meaning, like, we can be in a room and there's somebody that I see for the first time. I can read them up and down, and other people will tell me I'm wrong, I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and then ring my phone 4 6 months later and tell me I was right. Because I can read people. It's a gift. That's why I'm so talented at marketing. Because I can read you. right? So I am a recovering workaholic. I own that. Overworking in the name of hypercapitalism, espousing anti Black and hyper individualistic rhetoric is being a pick me to YT supremacy and the patriarchy because it's rooted in I have to prove my worth. And what's her name? MTG, example of this. Bovert, example of this. Everyone he picked in his cabinet. Pam Bondi, example of this. We haven't heard much about the McMahon lady lately, but yeah, the press secretary, example of this, willing to overwork to prove to daddy that they are worth his attention, right? It happens in corporate America. You see it in corporate America all the time. Over 10 years ago, there was this one lady, and she was very tight with he wasn't the top guy, but he was a very influential guy in his, I won't say his name or position in the state. They were very tight. They probably are still very tight to this day. But that was daddy issues, and it was a very smart political move on her part. But that is what the end goal looks like when someone is willing to overwork and to prove themselves and to validate themselves. And this is someone who went through bariatric surgery to lose a lot of weight. That's important to know, right? Because we're talking about the psychology. And the fact is, she couldn't rely on her face or laying on her back to get it. So she got it another way. And I don't think that this particular person would do that anyway. So she got it how she could get it. He's actually a very good leader, and she wanted to leverage that relationship. Not in a sleazy, slutty kind of way. I'm not saying that. But she, made sure she became the go-to person and that. So, you know, overworking, improving yourself, because we're hearing a lot of that right now about how you should be working all day and all night. And I rebuke it. I rebuke it. I rebuke it. No, you should not. I'm not saying you shouldn't be working, but baby, work smarter, not harder. Because if you are putting all these funnels in place, if you are setting up your systems and your automation and using Chat GPT, then why do you have to work around the clock from sun up till sundown? Now, remember, this is coming from a recovering workaholic. And one of the things, the traps of a recovering workaholic is you love it so much, but you have to love yourself more than you love it. And so you have to take the time out to take care of yourself. Like my grandchildren, I'm telling you, they do not play that me being on my phone and not paying attention to them when they are here. Mm-mm, they are not. And if there are, seasons and things that I'm working on where I can't be 100% present with them when they are here, then I say, no, I can't right now because I don't like how it makes me feel that I want to be enjoying that time with them, but I'm thinking about all of the things that I can and should be doing anyway. So why not do those things, get them out of the way so then I have the time for them? Because sometimes I can put it off, and if I have enough headway, I can make sure that I am prepared. I'm looking at the clock because I've got a 2 o'clock call I got to get on. Okay. So overworking, working yourself to the bone in the name of capitalism, in the name of individualism, it's just not the answer. It's not the answer. Because capitalism will eat you up and spit you out, right? Choosing YT supremacy over your own best interests is never going to work out in your favor. And you cannot separate YT supremacy from capitalism or the patriarchy. You can't. They're inextricably intertwined. They are dependent upon each other. And that's just the way TI is. You ain't gotta like it. You ain't gotta respect it, but it ain't gonna change it. It is not going to change it at all, right? So this person sucking up to this influential position in the market, it was about a father wound. It was very much a father wound, and it was also political. There are women out there who are just very politically savvy like that. I personally don't like to owe anybody. So there's kind of like a limit, right? There's a limit. I got trust issues, right? I was thinking about that this morning. I got trust issues. So for me, it's not always about rugged individualism. I just really don't trust people like that. And rightfully so. So I don't trust people like that. What happened to the light? Come to the light, Carol Ann. Right. So yeah, Candace Owens is a grifter. There are scammers, right? Y'all got to stop listening to these people giving financial advice who are not financial advisors. You have to stop taking financial advice from people who aren't financial advisors. There are a lot of people giving really bad information online. And I can tell you that your licensed financial providers would never say some of the things that you see and hear online because they would lose their license and thusly their livelihood. Okay. You have to do your research and don't just take these people at their word and give them your money. Right? Like all this talk about trust. You have to understand what a trust is. But before you can understand what a trust is, you have to understand what an entity is. Right? It's just like there's LLCs and there's corporations and there's trust. Those are entities. You as an individual are a trust. That's why don't let anybody tell you that you can't have a business if you are not a corporation. In the United States of America, you absolutely can be a one person business and you can be a sole proprietor. Now, I'm not saying that's what you should be or should not be. I'm telling you it is an option. It is something that you can do. You can be a sole proprietor. Most businesses in the United States are sole proprietors, right? So you can be various entities, and then there's different things that you do for taxation. Various entities have different rules applied to them as far as taxation. I'm not going to get into all of that because I'm not teaching that today. But what I will tell you is, for example, I heard the other day someone say, um, talking about 401ks and them being down, that trusts weren't. Um, that Roth IRAs, like, no, that's not true. Roth IRAs are funded the same way that 401ks are, right? It's either not funded, but they buy and hold the same instruments: ETFs, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, and things like that. So if the stock market is down, whether it's in a Roth IRA or a 401k, chances are it's down right now. Doesn't mean you've lost money. That's the other thing. Y'all think you lost money. No, that's not really even a paper loss. That's a change in the valuation from day to day. It's like you buy a house. You buy a house for $100,000 in 5 years. In this market, it might be worth 200,000. But if something happens, the housing market crashes, they value the house tomorrow, it's 150,000. You're still up $50,000. You didn't really lose that because that was just a valuation. You don't lose money or make money until you actually sell the asset. And that loss or gain is determined based upon what the value was, the purchase price, not the value, the purchase price, compared to what you sell it or buy it at. Everything else is just a valuation. Everything else is just evaluation. So this goes back to what we've been talking about since January. You have to regulate your nervous system. If you are not regulating your nervous system, that is how you fall prey to this stuff, because you make decisions out of emotion, out of fear, out of pain, instead of from knowledge, expertise, from your power. And that's how they get you. Okay. So I think we've spent enough time talking about Candace Owens. I mean, we could talk about Candace Owens for days, but she's a grifter, and you have to know that. You have to accept that. And yes, there are things that I don't disagree with her. I'm not going to say that I agree with her, but I don't disagree with her on everything. But you have to be very careful agreeing with someone like her, because you will end up in a whole cult. You will end up needing reprogramming. What they do when they pull people out of cults, that's what's going to happen to you if you let her take you down that road. Because someone like her. Okay, so before we go on to the next thing, I didn't mention this, but we got to talk about this. Red Pill has created so many millionaires since 2016. People have really profited off of Red Pill. It became a marketing strategy. I noticed it, but I have children and grandchildren I have to look in the face. I have to look myself in the mirror. I could not and would not do it. But that there definitely has been this red pill creator pipeline that is now starting to dry up and having to shift since 2016. I can think of very distinct people who had their rise during that time, and they've done very well for themselves, right? It's an economy. It's an economy. That is why you will hear a lot of creators and coaches talking about being contrarian. I actually am a true contrarian. I've always talked about when everybody goes left, I go right. When everybody goes right, I go left. And that's not political talk. That comes from my experience in travel. And I actually did tours of Disney's, not Disney, Universal's Islands of Adventure before it was even open to the public. And I was at the grand opening. And going through City Walk as they were finishing the construction of that, the sales rep, Joanna at the time, I don't remember her last name, she talked about how it was designed based on most right handed people. When there's kind of like a fork in the road, most right hand people go off to the right. And so ever since she told me that, I would do that. I'll go off to the left, right? Now there are people who are contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. That's not me. I'm not going to be contrarian for the sake of going contrarian. I'm not going to sell my soul for the sake of being contrarian. I'm not going to just say things that I don't believe for the sake of being contrarian for likes, views, or any of that. That's just not me. Never has been, never will be. Okay. So, but I am a disruptor. I do tend to go opposite of what most other people are saying. But that is the difference. A lot of these so called contrarians now, number one, some of the things they preach, they don't and teach, they don't actually live by. They're highly emotive, thrive off of drama. And again, this is in my area of expertise, but there's serotonin and dopamine stuff that's brought into this. Okay. There's there that they get that drive from. They will hear a headline and run with it and tell you need to get in the bunker and you need to lock the doors. It's very panic based, very fear based, very emotive, very immature, very dysregulated nervous and emotional system. But they're contrarian. They're contrarian, is what they tell you, right? They're just contrarian for, I won't say the grift, but for the opportunity. It's very opportunistic. Completely opportunistic. Okay. So now we can move on to Issa Rae. Because Issa Rae got y'all lips curled up. Because y'all found out that Issa Rae was not born poor. She was born into having access, and has lived an upper middle class and even up life. And for some reason that makes her less black to some of y'all. And that is just weird to me, that we gatekeep being black or blackness to being poverty stricken and abused and having a victim story. That's why people lie about sleeping on their mama's couch in network marketing. I was sleeping on my mama's couch. No, your mama slept on your couch, and we all remember when your mama had to come live with you because, and I'm not saying this to be mean, but it's a fact in this case, the mom had some bipolar and other mental health issues and was going through, I don't know if it was psychosis, a mental break, or what, but had to actually live at this person's house with them until they could get into a facility, or the assistance came through for them to get their own house. But network marketing, they love to tell a good victim story on stage. And the victim story was, I was sleeping on my mama's couch. And she wasn't. She wasn't, right? Now, if you have a true story where maybe you were, had lost it all and got it all back, tell it. Tell it from the mountaintops. But what I'm saying is, your power is in not that you are a victim. Your power is in the transformation. What did you become? What did you learn? Not, I was a victim, so that now, especially as a black woman, like as a black woman, you got to be very, very careful with that whole victim story, right? Because the trope is, they don't even want to give you space if you don't have some very dastardly victim story, if you are a black person. And that's why we as black people have to be very careful with dismissing and canceling out someone's blackness, because when we do, just because they didn't grow up poor, we basically are part of the problem. It's internalized oppression, it's internalized hatred, it's internalized racism, is what it is. So we have to be very careful with wanting to cancel someone's blackness, which, by the way, I remember writing this in my thesis, in my capstone for my master's degree, where I wrote about marketing financial services to African Americans. And I said that you have to understand that blackness is not monolithic. We are not a monolith. We have various skin tones, hair textures, we have various backgrounds, various ethnicities, various nationalities, right? Africa is not a country, it is a continent. I think there's like 54 countries, I want to say, in Africa. And not only that, there are so many different tribes. Like Nigeria, I think, has like, I want to say, hundreds of different tribes that, are from that geographic region. So we are not a monolith. We are not all alike. We don't all have groupthink, but we sometimes do fall into groupthink, and that can be very, very dangerous. And we shouldn't do that. Okay. So y'all get off Issa Rae. Get off Issa Rae. Get off her back. She, has done some great things. She's masterful at storytelling. And, you know, because they talk about this on TikTok again, that a lot of people think because you grew up from this in the suburbs and you were black, that, you know, you lack blackness. And they're like, no, I grew up in the suburbs, but I still lived a very 100% black existence. It happens. And that's when, again, you got to change your worldview. You got to get out. You got to travel. You got to visit various places. You got to have friends. Diversity means a lot of things. It does not just mean black and white. Diversity means you have not only black friends, but black friends from the Caribbean, from the Dominican, from, that come from poverty, that grew up with privilege, right? Like, for me, when I grew up, the Cosby Show definitely showed us that there was more than what we lived and saw every day. A lot of us never even knew that HBCUs even existed before the Cosby Show. That's how we learned about them. So we have to get out of this, like everybody had to grow up eating sugar sandwiches. Because even people who didn't have a lot, not everybody ate sugar sandwiches. No more than all black people grew up without a father in the home, or didn't know their father, or didn't have a father. Right? We got to be careful what we speak, because it's indicative of what we subscribe to. And some of what you're subscribing to is rooted in patriarchy, capitalism, and white supremacy. And you gotta wake up. Some of y'all ain't as woke as you think you are. It's like when y'all was sharing, well, if race doesn't matter, then why is it on the application? And now affirmative action is gone and y'all are crying about it. But that's why it was on there, for affirmative action tracking. Maybe it's because I read so much. Maybe it's because I'm such a prolific and maybe it's because I'm such a voracious reader that I know these things and I have this insane pattern recognition. But y'all, we've got to do better. We have got to do better, okay? Unemployment spikes, has been spiking. Why have you not started the business yet? Why have you not started the automation yet? Why have you not started the process of building your audience so you can get monetized? You're going to wait until you get, I watched it's crazy. There was a creator that I don't follow, but because I consumed some of her content, TikTok showed me another of her videos as I was making dinner last night. And she said, I got fired today. I'm not upset, but I got fired today. Right. That's how fast it's happening. And she cleared it up. It wasn't performance based. It was funding. So she lost her job. Right. And so are you going to wait until you go into work and they hand you a pink slip and then you want to try and monetize, or should you be building and getting your income streams and your monetization going now? I say no. I say don't wait. I sold a whole lot. I sold millions in home equity lines of credit, home equity line loans. And one thing I can tell you, same with that in credit cards. People would come into the bank. They would want them when they needed them. And when they needed them, they could not get them. Now, I'm not saying you won't be able to monetize, but the day is coming. They're going to be shutting that down. But you have monetizable skills. You have monetizable knowledge and expertise. You can be the brand. You are the brand. You are the content. If you stick with me, you'll be the algorithm too. Okay. 2 o'clock, I'm meeting with someone who found me through social media, owns multiple restaurants, and I did some a la carte marketing work for them in late 2019. Right before everything shut down and restaurants had to do where you could pull up and they would bring the food out to you. We were negotiating a 4-figure retainer monthly. And I kept following up. And it was like, with everything being shut down right now, that's just not a good time. So I've been following up for 5 years. And they're on my email list and they get my regular emails. I don't do newsletters, I do actual emails. And I heard from them on Friday, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but you did this work and I want some more. And like, okay, I'm so happy to hear from you. But the reason he never, it was never an option to forget my name because I kept my name in front of him. I kept following up. I get that question all the time about email marketing and leads. How often do I email them? How long do I email them for? You email them until they buy, die, or unsubscribe. Buy until they buy, die, or unsubscribe. Okay? Until they buy, die, or unsubscribe. And I talked about this on a different live yesterday, so I'm going to say it again here. If they are a customer, they are still going to continue to get emails from me. Because I know with customers, they don't even always open the email, but they save them. They're funny because I've heard it from them, right? I've heard this in conversation with customers. Oh, it's your email. I don't open it, so I save it. I save it. So they have this stack of emails. I think some of them even put it in folders and they don't open them. But when they're ready to open them, they go and they open them. By the way, this person that I'm meeting with at 2:00 for 5 years had a 96.3% open rate on my emails. And I've sent hundreds of emails in 5 years. 96.3%. So, what does that mean to you? It means he was engaged, not responsive. He didn't click, he didn't reply, but he was opening and reading the emails. I was still making an impression. I was still educating. I was still getting my message out, and it was received. It was received well enough that my emails were important enough to him that every time I sent them, he opened them. A 96.3% open rate. 96.3%. He was opening my emails at 96.3%. Even when I segment my emails, he was still getting them because he was highly engaged with a 96.3% open rate, because I do segment my list based on behavior. So a person can be a customer, but they won't get as many emails as frequently if they're not opening the emails, but they're going to get some emails. They ain't going to forget a chance to forget about Tamira S. Hamilton and the magic that she does and how she helped transform their business. I'm never beating the allegations. I'm never beating the allegations of following up with my customers. Your customer list is a intangible asset. I'm going to say it again. Your customer list, your membership list are intangible assets. In fact, in reputable business sales transactions, if you have a business and you are going to sell it, chances are you are selling your book of customers. If you are an accountant, for example, that's what you're doing. You're selling your book of customers. You're selling the files. You're selling the data. You're selling the name, the contact information. You are selling an intangible asset. Ask me how I know. Okay, ask me how I know. In college, my entire family and all of my friends, we used the same accountant. It was a husband and a wife. And I think my sophomore or junior year in college, I was kept going over there so I could get scheduled and get my taxes done, and they were never open. And I was talking to a good friend and they're like, "Yeah, he died. He died." The wife was his assistant. She didn't have the CPA. So once he died of cancer, and in fact I saw his obituary, and then the next thing you know, the new CPA firm that bought the book of customers reached out to me. So you have a list of customers and you're not even emailing them, let alone your leads. You have to email your customers. And if a customer doesn't want me to keep in contact with them, they are not a customer. That was a transaction. And they buy, die, or unsubscribe. Buy, die, or unsubscribe. Right? And I'm petty. I'm a petty one. If you unsubscribe from my list, but then show up in my inbox, oh, I didn't know you were doing this. I didn't know you were doing that. Did you get the email? Because that's how I notified you. I notified you via email. Did you get the email? Did you open the email? Oh, you unsubscribed. That's why you didn't know. That's why you don't have access. That's why you don't have this. That's why you didn't get the discount. And no, I'm not giving you the discount because the time elapsed, because you should have stayed on the email list and you should have opened and read and clicked in the emails. Right? Take back your power. Claim your power. There is no power in a victim story itself. The power is in the transformation and the becoming. What did you become? What did you learn? And how did you apply what you learned? That's where the power is. As I say, I collect leads and make money in my sleep. You're not just going to talk to me any kind of way. I went live on TikTok earlier and talked about I don't book clients on Mondays. Monday is an in-service day for me in my business. If you want Monday, you got to pay me a lot of money to meet with me on a Monday. We're talking 5 figures. Well into 4, preferably 5 figures. Especially at 8 o'clock. You think you're going to book me for $200? And I don't even do this. You think you're going to book me, take up my time and ask me all kind of questions and want to offer me $200-$300 a month to be your social media manager? No, I'm not getting out of bed for that on a Monday. And the truth is I'm not in bed, but that's the way I say it. I'm not getting out of bed on Monday at 8 o'clock to talk to you about such an insulting proposition. I'm not, because I know my worth and I add tax and servicing. I know my worth. I add convenience fees and tax. And you should too. See, you get to design your life, and you should strive to have harmony in your life. And someone who wants to make me meet with them at 8 a.m. on a Monday and only has $300 a month to offer me, I don't do social media management in the first place, they're going to be a headache. They're going to be more work than the 5-figure client that is going to basically be a funded offer on a Monday, right? A funded offer, because I know my worth. I know what I bring to the table. I know my power. I know what I can do. I know what I have done. I know what I will do. And what I won't do is betray myself just for a few dollars. I will hold the line knowing that God is out there working on my behalf for what I truly want, what is in alignment with my purpose, that He is my supply, that He is my provider, and that it will show up when it's supposed to show up. It's already happening. It's working behind the scenes. And all I need to do is hold the line, not just get scared and take a few dollars and work outside of the parameters and boundaries that I set for myself in my business and take some what seems like low hanging, easy money, but is really going to end up being a headache and more trouble than it's worth. But I can do that. I can rest in that. I understand my power in that. Okay. So I'm going to get ready to go so I can prepare for my 2 o'clock call, get down a little bit more salad because my stomach is starting to grumble. And I will see you on the next live. Bye bye.